The Bobby O Show.
Welcome to the Bobby O Show. My name is Bob O. Potzner. I live in Richfield, Connecticut. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Collins and Hannafin, and I want to tell you, I love America. Let me say it one more time. I love America. I went to 2 rallies this past weekend, October 18th, No King's Day, in Bethel, which had a phenomenal turnout. I guess 1,500 to 2,000 people. There was also a small enclave of people around the corner, about 25 or so, who were trying to disrupt or anti-I Love America theme of the No King's Day. I then went to my town of Richfield, Connecticut, and there were about another 2,000 people, including one of my guests, or maybe 2 of my guests were actually there, in Richfield, supporting America. And we have a Constitution of the United States of America. Last week, if you watched my show, with attorney Rod Smola, who was a friend of mine from Yale undergraduate and Duke Law, who was a professor and spoke about the constitutional issues that exist in our society. We need to all stand up and use our voices. And we have 3 people today who are bravely going to talk about what they're doing in an organization called Greater Danbury Unites for Immigrants to try to help save our country. It's not a unique idea for me to say the symbol of the picture of the White House the other day that we saw, demolished in the East Wing by our President of the United States, who's a convicted felon, Donald Trump, who is spending $250 million to repair, or not repair, to build a ballroom after having destroyed the Rose Garden in the White House. And now he wants $230 million for the injuries he suffered in the investigations and criminal charges against him. All this, that's almost $500 million, not to mention the airplane he's hoping to get from Qatar and the cost to fix that. All this while we have a government shutdown, people working without being paid. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a lawyer down south, works for the government, and she's not getting paid. She doesn't know where the money's going to come from for her meals. And yet we have a president who is fighting for money for himself. He's being greedy. He's not worried about the people. And what he's doing to the immigrants of our country, the ones especially I'm concerned about are those who have been here for 20, 30 years, who've paid taxes and lived a good life. And what he's doing is terrible. And so today we're going to talk about, we can't fix the world today, but I can talk about at least one issue. And the issue we're going to focus on is the immigrants and how they're being treated. And even in our area of Danbury, Connecticut, the ice is here and people are being hurt, mentally, physically, in all different ways, economically. So if you made my little spiel, I want to introduce to you right now, going right to left, we have Seth Garben, we have Clementina Luna. Lumas? Luna. Okay, I'm getting closer. Well, if I do it 3 more times, I might get it right. And Scott Kemp. Correct. Got that right.
There you go.
Welcome to the show.
Thank
and so when I'm going to have you first introduce yourselves, a little about yourself, and you're going to, ma'am, get your name very slowly so that everyone can understand your name. So let's go, Seth, why don't you go first about who you are briefly, and we'll get to issues in a few moments about what the organization does.
Sure. So I'm Seth Garben. I'm a resident of New Fairfield. I'm an artist and musician, but I'm also an organizer with Greater Danbury Unites for Immigrants. I've been an organizer with this organization since June of this year.
2025?
2025.
Said you're an artist. What kind of artist are you?
Musician mostly, but I'm also a writer and a poet.
You're a poet. And what kind of music instrument? What instrument do you play?
I'm a singer, and I compose the songs.
Do you really? You know, I have, on my show, have had people who are songwriters. What I had was on September 24th show number 91, I did a 2-part series on the Whiffenpoofs. You ever hear the Whiffenpoofs?
No.
The Whiffenpoofs are an a cappella group They started Yale in 1908. Yale went co-ed in 1967-ish. And they did not allow women into the group for Whiffenpoofs until 2019. And so I did a two-part series. One was about a lady who's now a singer-songwriter who was the first woman in the Whiffenpoofs. And then I had the following week, I had the Whiffenpoofs, 5 of them, alumni, come and talk to us as well. So maybe we'll have you someday as a singer and artist.
Maybe.
He's good. He is good.
I'm sure he is. In fact, right in that corner, we each filmed for that day a show for each of those people, and it was live streamed here.
Oh, wow.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. Seth, rather. Your name, ma'am, is?
Clementina Lunar.
Lunar, L-U-N-A-R?
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay, like the moon,
That's
lunar.
missing.
Like
Okay.
the moon, lunar.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I call you Clementina?
Yes, of course.
Clementina,
Yes.
who are you?
Well, I'm an immigrant from Mexico who came to live in Danbury early 90s, means that I'm being here for 34 years, about 34
You
years.
look much younger than that. How old were you
you.
came over in 1990?
I was very young. I was 23 years old,
Wow.
about 23. And I became an activist in around 2006 because the Boughton administration enacted the 287G ordinance.
The 287G ordinance, what is the 287G ordinance?
Well, that allowed some members of the police department to get the in training and act as immigration agents. So at the time, they were allowed to detain people on the streets and ask for documentation. At the time, they were racially profiling people.
In 2006?
About 2006, yes.
I must confess, I did not know that until just this moment. Wow. So you were an
Yes.
activist, that caused you to be an activist. When you came to we're going to get back to that in a few minutes. When you came from Mexico to the United States, did you speak English?
No.
And was there a reason why you came to the United States?
Well, because at the time, Mexico went through a terrible financial situation after the signing of the NAFTA, and many people had to migrate because the economic situation in Mexico, the inflation was just terrible. And my husband migrated first, then I migrated with our 2.5-year-old daughter because we were looking for better ways to, to provide for our little one. So,
Estudio español cuántos años de Shelton High School. Y un año at Yale Universidad. But unless you live in the country, you can't. Yeah, and I never got, although I'm hoping to go to Spain and Portugal next year, but unless you live there, you really can't. And I was very good in my class at Yale, in 12 kids in a class in Spanish. I was as good as anybody in reading and writing. Speaking and understanding, not so good. Okay?
That's the most difficult part, when you really have to communicate. Reading and writing, you get by because it's easier, and the way that it's not as upfront. But when you have to speak it, it's difficult.
When I see a pencil, I think pencil lapis.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to really speak the language, it's got to be, you see the pencil, you think lapis, which is pencil in Spanish. You're a citizen of the United States?
Yes, I am.
And what year was that?
That was 2008.
I've
I
been
think
in
2007, I'm sorry.
that time frame.
Yeah.
I've been in federal court a few times when I saw people getting sworn in to be citizens. Just tell me briefly, how did you feel when you got sworn in as a citizen of the United States of America 17, 18 years after you came?
Well, it was extremely exciting, and I felt like I was living the dream. I mean, when we, had to put our hand up and recite, that amazing phrase. I mean, like, and also I was in Bridgeport court, so the judge was very nice. He told his personal story of migration, his parents, and how he became a judge, and that was just surreal.
Was that in the state court or the federal court?
I think it was.
Was it on Main
can't
Street?
remember. That was a while ago, so I cannot
Was
remember.
it Judge Medina?
Can't remember, I'm sorry.
Judge Medina actually is a judge who's a very good judge, who's a judge in Danbury, and he spoke last night. We had a bar association for lawyers honoring the judges, and Judge Medina families from Mexico when he gave a speech that was very moving about it. But thank you, and I'm proud of you as an American. I'm sure you're proud to be here in our country.
I am.
Your country, too.
It's my country.
It's your country,
it's
too.
my country. Yes, thank you.
Supais.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yes, I'm Scott Kemp. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh, and my family, my mom and dad, mom was a shop steward in the school system. Father worked in the steel mill, was a union steel worker. We had a farm. He had 2 or 3 things. We did all kinds of stuff. I mean, you talk about like running different gigs and everything. We had them, side gigs. We had it, and I was probably working from 6th grade on. Ended up career-wise, worked for Pepsi. That's what brought me up to Connecticut, to Ridgefield. I was at the executive level. And I did a lot of different facets: general management, process improvement, sales. I was probably one of the only people that went from Pepsi to Coke, so I had that translation.
Trader.
Yeah, and it was really, really different, but it was good. Then I made the transition to the nonprofit sector, and I went into, and this was in the middle of COVID, I went to Connecticut Food Share, and we were in the middle of a merger and COVID. So that was difficult times, and it gave me appreciation for a whole lot of things. Moved to Houston.
Can I stop you 1 second?
Yep,
What's
sure.
Connecticut Food Share?
Connecticut Food Share is basically the biggest food bank in Connecticut. So they bring the food in from the government. So all these government cuts that are happening right now, it affects them pretty big time. Just to give you some insight, in June, my old boss said, hey, Connecticut Food Share, they canceled 35 loads since June. These are tractor trailer loads of food that haven't made it to the pantries throughout the state.
Is this fruit and vegetables, or
These
is this
are
pasta?
foods. These are foods. These are meats. These are vegetables, dry goods. In some cases, like personal care type items too.
And
So
who gets the food?
the pantries. So we have local pantries here like Jericho, like Daily Bread. I actually volunteer at Daily Bread now, and we take that food in from Connecticut Food Share. They also get it from other sources too, and folks come in. We sign them up, and they at least at Daily Bread, it's almost like a little supermarket. You have an appointment to come in. You have so many points based off of your family size, and you can get that up to that many points of food.
Where is that located in Danbury area?
It's right off of, there's a Caribbean restaurant right there. I'm drawing a blank of which
Is that
road
near
that is.
WestCon?
No. This is going almost closer to the mall, towards the mall.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you think of that name, you'll let us
Yep,
know.
it's where the old military museum used to be.
Okay, I know
Yes,
exactly where that is.
exactly. So that's
Okay.
been renovated. It's a great space, great people, tied back to Greater Danbury Unites for Immigrants. They've kind of helped us with, teaching folks
Which
using their
they?
facility.
Which they?
They being Daily Bread, right?
Okay.
They
So
being
if I
Daily
understand
Bread.
it correctly, Daily Bread is an organization not affiliated with you, but you work with them.
Yep.
And they have sources of food for people who qualify. Now, to get the food, do you have to have a certain low-income level?
Yes, exactly. It's called TFAP in the food banking.
TFAP.
TFAP, yeah. So it's a government program that if you have a family size, if you're say 3 people in the household, and you make below this, then you qualify for it, right? So, it's honestly, it's been up. It's new. It's people have dignity there as they come through. They get to shop. They get to pick what they're getting. You're not getting a bag and handed it to you like, hey, this is what you got. And
So in other words, it helps the organization we're talking about today, and we're going to come back in a few moments to talking about how that connects with especially people who are the immigrants,
Yes.
who are low-income people who need the food.
Yep.
I'm going to ask my director. I'm going to ask you a question, and that's Scott, and that's this. When did we first meet? I'm going to ask my director to put the first picture that they have of some guy holding a sign that says, "We have no kings, we have a constitution." the guy holding that sign looks familiar. Do you know who that guy is?
That's you. That is
Okay,
you.
okay.
That is you.
And I met you in July of 2025, is that correct?
Yes.
And I didn't know until last night at 10 o'clock when you called me to tell me, you know who I am.
Yes.
And there's a bus behind where I'm standing. Do you see that bus?
Yes.
Can you tell us briefly how it was to be that I got there with all by myself initially and with that bus? Can you connect the dots in a short?
Yeah.
Because it ties into what we're doing today.
Yeah, this is what happened, at least on my side, right? I'm an activist within this area. I started getting calls, there's some stuff going down in Ridgefield you need to check out, right? So when we arrived, that's when I saw you, and I think it was only you and
All
maybe
by
two,
myself.
yep.
Well, I was there all myself at first.
And you had been there for a while, right?
I was there 5.5 hours that day.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, and what it was for the viewers, it was this bus that had the current person that sits in the White House with his fist up. It had MLK
Martin Luther King.
with a pose like, I think before he got shot, I think, right?
They
Wasn't that
had a
in
picture on the
Memphis?
bus of John F. Kennedy
Yep,
during the shooting time
yep,
in 1963. And they had the picture of MLK. And it
Yep.
was essentially a bus that was very pro-MAGA.
yes.
Were you there when I was getting harassed by people from the bus? Were you there at that point in time? Probably not.
I don't think,
That's
yeah,
why, 'cause
I
I
don't-
thought you were somebody else.
Yeah,
But the point,
yeah.
the point is, like you, I was just driving in town. I saw that, and I went and got my sign
Yep.
that I had, and that deals with the issue of protecting immigrants.
Yes.
So maybe one of you two want to talk about what is going on now that you're trying to protect immigrants from. You want to start it, Celestina?
Yeah, I mean, having gone through the experience of 287G and see how people was racially profiled at the time, and also the fact that the immigrant and non-immigrant community in Danbury united to help people at the time, taught me something about Danbury. Danbury is a great community. And as soon as I got the call to be part of this organization, and having gone through the experience previously, I thought, you know what, now is important. I remember what happened when Trump got elected the first time and how awful it was for so many of us. So I thought this time is going to be even more challenging.
Question for you.
Yeah.
You said of us, you were already a citizen at that point in time. Were you worried about your own safety and your family's safety, who were all citizens, or is it more those who were not, who were undocumented? What was your concern, or was it both?
I mean, I'm a brown person. I'm an immigrant, right? I've always been aware of the risks that involve someone who's different, looks different,
You
my
don't look
culture.
different to me. You look like any, I mean, it's a compliment. You look like any other person in their late 40s, early 50s, whatever you are. But you were concerned that your skin color
Yes.
was going to have you. Do you carry your passport with you at all times?
I don't have my purse right now with me, but it's in my purse right now.
And tell you the truth, I carry my passport. They have the little card things.
Right,
I
the
got a
card.
passport card and my driver's license, because I think who knows what's going to happen. There are 178 people, I believe, that ICE has detained who are American citizens. So who knows who's going to get it next. Do you have any comments about this whole situation as we get into it?
Yeah, and I think Clementina, who's been in this fight much longer than I have, would know, and then Scott probably as well, but the persecution of immigrants is not something that is new with the Trump administration. Obama deported 3 million people during his administration, and it's been going on since, the founding of this country was founded on the genocide of the native peoples. And on the backs of slaves. And these communities, they're brought in, or in many cases, like Clementina was saying, I mean, Mexico was destabilized by the United States government and Canada's government as well. So it's a vicious cycle where our government, the United States government, destabilizes countries, mainly in Latin America and the Caribbean, and you have an influx of immigrants. Many say searching for the American dream, but many are trying to escape poverty, violence, war, etc. And they come to the United States, and we exploit them. Many of them working very, very low wage jobs. And when they've served their purpose to capital, to the U.S. government, we kick them out. And now very, very violently. And it's very, very flagrant the way in which the Trump administration is doing it, but it's nothing new.
I want to stop you one thing, and that is, I want to clarify that any of the opinions of the three of you and myself are our own individual opinions. I don't agree with you on a lot of things you just said, but I respect your right to say them. And also Comcast, just because I'm on this station, doesn't mean that you're being here that they support that perspective. I want to ask you this question. Do you think if there's a person here who is a violent criminal, who is in the United States illegally, that person has the right to stay here, or do you think that person should be deported to his country?
Yeah, so I'll also preface by saying my views are my own. They're not the views of
Correct.
Of Duffy, the organization. No, as an abolitionist, I don't believe we can deport anybody,
Okay.
much less put them in prison or any kind of detention. So.
Okay. Does anyone of you two people agree with him that strictly, or do any of you agree that if a person is here illegally in the United States of America and commits a violent crime, that person should be deported to the country they came from? Does anyone disagree with that? We know you do. How about the,
Can I?
yeah.
I think everyone has the right to due process, right? So
Clearly.
so it's whether you allegedly committed something. Yes, you got due process, and it works through. That's the case. Then you move from there, right? But that's the first thing, right? And I think that's, folks aren't getting due process right now, and they're getting pulled over for minor crime. I mean, the things that they're going to Danbury court right now are little things. Okay, if you drive through this area first thing in the morning, there are police all over, right? And people are getting pulled over for little things a lot of times, right?
Do you think only certain people are getting pulled over?
Oh yes,
Okay,
yes.
I
And we're policing in only those areas. I live on the Ridgebury section of Ridgefield, and if I got off Route 1, I've never seen a cop on the Danbury section over there. I've never seen, like in all these other areas, they're all concentrated in one area. I mean, it's kind of scary when you drive through the morning. If you're a black or brown person just driving through there in the morning, it is scary. The other thing to note, go back and look how many times they've pulled people, or they have setups for DUIs, right? They're always on Main Street. They're never in these other places. I would welcome some of them in my area, that crosses into it, from the speeding, DUIs, and all that type of thing. So I think that's a big one. The other thing, just to...
Well, before you go on from there, the due process thing is critical. And Abrego Garcia did not get due process. And I am a fierce protector of due process. We are all entitled to due process of law. What happened to the Japanese people in World War II is an abomination. And having Garcia being sent back without having due process, and the way the Trump administration dealt with that, not abiding by the judge's orders, saying that, we did, I'm paraphrasing, we didn't know the judge, we being the Attorney General, we didn't know that the judge said no. The judge was clear about no. So you couldn't be more in tune with what I believe about due process rights, because everyone, the 178 people who were American citizens who got swept up by ICE, are entitled to due process. But that begs the question, so I think what you're saying, if I may, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, Scott, but you're saying that you would agree with the perspective that if someone is here illegally and committed a violent crime, then as long as that person gets whatever due process the Constitution of the United States allows, and if due process shows that that person is what I just said, then you would support that person being deported to his or her country. So that's, I'm putting words in your mouth, but is that what your position is?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
How about you, Clementina?
I talk about that my family and myself went through a process, right? It took many years. It was lengthy. I don't want to be.
It's hard. It's
I
a
don't
hard
want to. I don't want to give details, but we have to go through due process to get, you know, to be allowed to be in the country legally, right? And even though when it was extremely expensive, extremely difficult, took many, many years, we got it. So I definitely agree with that due process. Now, let's be clear that right now it's not such a thing. And also, even before we went through the process, for some people to get their to be allowed to be in the country legally takes forever. I know people who's been waiting for more than 30 years.
You know what really bothers me is that people who were trying to follow the law and going through the process of getting to become a citizen were being picked up by ICE on their way to the court or whatever, which is, in my view, un-American. So, I mean, there is no question in my belief that what's going on in Portland, Oregon, what's going on in Los Angeles, Chicago, and DC, there's a lot of people who are not getting a due process, but it's not just there, it's right here in Danbury, Connecticut. And that's a problem that we have got to address. Do any of you have stories without telling people's names about people who in the Danbury, Connecticut area have gotten swept up, who are people who are not criminals, who got stopped for going 26 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone? I'm using that as an example. That's going to the minor issue. Getting rid of criminals. Gee, Tom Homan, who's the fellow who was in charge of Homeland Security, had a bag of $50,000 cash on a tape, and he's the guy in charge of ICE. Well, you don't see him much on TV anymore since that came out. So my question is, anybody have any stories about people who you know, without their names, whoever wants to volunteer going through first, about someone who you think has been treated improperly without due process, and generally speaking?
Yeah, I mean, I remember one day, June 16, we were
this year.
Yes, we were outside at the court building, passing information, red cards to people who were, coming out of the court.
What's a red card?
The red card is this card that is being distributed, who has what are the rights for immigrants or for anybody, because it's not just for an immigrant, where it says that you have the right to remain silent. You don't agree with a search on yourself or your belongings. That if you get stopped by ICE, you can stay silent and show them that. So they
You're
have to
supposed to be able
respect.
to stay silent. If you stay silent, I'm not sure what happens. The Constitution says there's many cases in criminal law that talk about the right to remain silent. I'm not sure whether or not people who are staying silent are not still getting swept up or are being treated poorly because they're staying silent. But anyway, finish your story,
Yes. So that day, I remember we went passing these red cards to people, right? All of a sudden, we saw these two young ladies walking on Y Street. It's a sunny summer day, beautiful, warm. They looked very happy. They looked that they were just enjoying each other's company. We told them, be careful because ICE is in the area. We have already identified them in different points around the courthouse. So they went to wherever they were going. And about half an hour or 40 minutes after, they were on their way back when one of the ICE vehicles stopped them and took them away.
How do you know it was an ICE vehicle? Was it marked in any way, shape, or form?
Well, we just know that it's ICE.
Well, but see, I'm asking, I gave you, as a lawyer, as a leading question. Part of the problem that I have is that police officers wear a badge, Smith badge number 227. The ICE people, from what I've never seen an ICE person that I know of, but from what I've seen on television and whatever, what I've heard, there's masks on their face,
Yep.
the vehicles are not identified, and there's no identification on the person. Although now in Chicago, the judge said that you have to wear the TV camera. So how does one know? If you're on the streets, if you don't speak the language very well, I'm not saying you don't, but if someone doesn't speak the language very well, maybe whatever problem they may have, how do they know the person's not just someone trying to steal their money?
And it could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
And it absolutely could be. And I don't know if there have been any proven cases of imposters, but I don't think it's a far stretch of the imagination to.
I have a daughter who's a teacher, and I would be afraid, and you're saying a brown person, she's not a brown person, but to me we're all people, doesn't matter what color or religion, whatever, but if she were a brown person, I wouldn't let her go out at night. Of course she'd say, Dad, I'm going out anyway. Did you have a story you want to tell us about?
Yeah, I mean, we've had multiple times mask on, right? So you're not sure who this person is. We've had, if you look.
Who's the we? Who's the we? You said
we our group. You can't
Okay.
tell
Okay.
who they are. In Danbury court, we had 50 or 60 ICE agents there. You had one, supposedly, that all he had on was a Modelo, the beer shirt. Okay, we'll send you that video. But there's no identifier of who this person was. One of the stops down by the Gulf station, man, there was 10 of them, right? It's all mixed. You can't tell the car. You'll see FBI, but I could go on any site and get an FBI vest.
Of course.
I can get an HSA vest, right? And they just tell you. A lot of times they won't even say anything. You know, one of the first videos that we had a young woman that was asking them, you know, who are you, what agency, and they just don't tell you. So they don't respond. They're in disguise. I don't understand why they're in disguise, and I don't understand why the cars aren't marked. You know, it's what do we?
They're embarrassed. They're afraid.
Yeah, and I mean,
and I know it really is a hypocritical thing. Is we've got to send, according to President Trump, who I know she didn't mention his name, but President Trump sent people to a location with the military. No unrest going on, just going there, just doing it, just presenting the situation. And I'm sure some people must be embarrassed to be National Guard people, especially if you're coming from Texas to Illinois. I want to get to, there's a lot more to talk about, but I want to get to what is this group doing to try to protect immigrants from having this mistreatment that you believe is happening to them in this area. And I can have the picture, please, of a guy whose back is to the audience or to the camera in the Richfield. There it is. Who's that guy speaking? Is that you?
Hey, that's me.
Okay. I was in that crowd in Richfield, and I got there just after you had sort of ending your speech. What were you doing in Richfield that day, and what was your topic in speaking?
Yeah, so I was one of the organizers too in the No Kings rallies, and we had a great group of folks. We drew 1,700 plus to this. The big thing that I tried to emphasize, and we had that tied through every single speaker, every single poem, every single piece of music, is we need to act now, right? So as I opened up my speech, I said a couple of things. Number one, they think we're paid protesters, right?
Isn't that ridiculous?
Right? They think we're paid protesters, but you know what? I am getting paid, because when I look out and I saw 1,700 beautiful fired up faces ready to fight against fascism, fight against the king, you know what? Yeah, I did get
Peacefully
paid.
fight against the king.
Peacefully, absolutely. And then I would tell you, the second thing I went into was my own dilemma, okay, that we all have. And this ties back to that action, and it ties eventually back to Doofy when I say it, is that it's hard being active right now, okay? A lot of people are afraid. You're afraid because you might lose friends, you might lose your job, you might lose a lot of different things, right? And I went to them and I said, hey, the thing that I've used a lot at this organization, and I love this organization, it's the one that, frankly, I feel like we're having the most impact out of everything that I do, and I'm in a lot. But I always look back to my great-grandmother. Okay, whoop, I lost her.
Hold it up a little higher. It's a little small, maybe hard to see.
Whoop. that way.
Okay, that's okay. That's your great grandmother.
That's my great grandmother, Carolyn Perkins. We're not sure if she was enslaved or not, but I know that my ancestors are saying, Scott, you've got this, right? You can do it. We can do it. And that's what I challenged everyone that day was find some type of faith, find either faith, a person, but we can't sit beside and on the sideline and not do anything. We can't. We have to take some steps. We can't be doom scrolling on Facebook. You know, there's the 5 acts. The nice thing about the rally, we had 5 groups there that you could table with, that people talked with. One was our group.
I'm sorry, you say 5 groups, you mean organizations?
Organizations, yes.
Just so you know, you may have had 5 groups there. I don't belong to any of those groups.
Yep.
And I was just there, and a lot of people there don't belong. So
Exactly.
And what we really need, in my opinion, the groups are wonderful, okay? But I don't necessarily agree with indivisible, all it stands for.
No, yep.
I don't necessarily agree with some of the other groups that exist. But here's the key, in my opinion. Right now, we all need to fight for democracy. There are a whole lot of issues that we're concerned about. You can talk about, Israel versus Hamas.
Yep.
You could talk about gun control, no gun control. You could talk about LGBTQ or not, whatever you want to talk about. Those are all, and there's many, many, many more that are critical issues. But right now, in my opinion, we have to sort of put aside right now our individuals, because we could all have differences of opinion, like you and I did a few minutes ago, about some of those topics. But we don't disagree that the fact is that we do not have a king.
Yeah.
We have a constitution.
Yep.
And if we get bogged down, in my opinion, I'd like to have some comments from you on this. If we get bogged down in the particular items, we're never going to get past Trump, because he's got his 30x% of MAGA people who are, no matter what he does, if he takes his $230 million, that's a bogus claim, it's fine. It's fine to them. Any comment about that?
Yeah, see, I think those groups that were there, if you look at them.
I wasn't criticizing
Yeah,
groups.
no, they were general groups, right? Ridgefield Resistance, the Resisters that do good work, the Revs that come out of Reading, et cetera. And then us, right? And frankly, I think from our standpoint, if you want to train on how to get active and do some stuff, you come to our group, okay? Because this is the one that you're gonna find out how you help people in the community, how you work and create community, and how we just have to prepare. Right?
Seth, how do you train people? How do you go about training people?
Well, it definitely depends on what the activity is. So we run a number of programs, Know Your Rights trainings, whether that's doing outreach into the community, to businesses, faith organizations, that sort of thing. So that has its own training. We do rapid response training. A lot of that is on the ground, whether that's morning patrols or responding to a call.
What does that mean? You get phone calls that come on, the ISIS
Yeah,
here?
so rapid response, we'll get information from a number of different sources. And we do our best to respond to them, both in Danbury and the surrounding towns. We're definitely not the only group in Connecticut doing rapid response, absolutely not the only one in the country. And each rapid response group looks differently based on their capabilities, their numbers, their resources, that sort of thing. We do post-detention work, and I'm sure Clementina can speak to that. We have a helpline. So, the training corresponds to whatever the activity is.
I was asked to speak at a group called Justice Southbury. And that's a group, in fact, they're going to be on my show next week, next week with Rick Richardson and Jeremy Farrell. I don't know if you know these people or not, but I was asked to speak at that Justice Southbury group. And they have met 282 consecutive Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
In Southbury. If you go exit 15,
Yes.
you coming from Danbury, take the left, and there's a Dunkin' Donuts right in that area.
Yeah.
There's a big green area. Rain, sleet, or snow. And they are out there talking to me, and what I spoke about was we can all whine about, oh my God, this is happening, that's happening, whatever. But as President Roosevelt once said, or actually it was Kennedy, I think, said, actions do indeed speak louder than words. It's either Roosevelt or FDR or Kennedy, but actions do speak louder than words. You got to get out and do something. So I gave my list of things that could be done, And one of the top things on my list was GOTV. Who knows what GOTV stands for? What does it stand for?
Get out the vote.
Get out the vote. Get out the vote. I had a friend of mine who was a very active Democrat, very active in women's rights, Susan Coco, who passed away last year unexpectedly. She was chairman of the Richfield Democratic Town Committee for many, many years. And the first time I met her, she said, "Hi, I'm Susan Coco, GOTV." I said, "What television show are you talking about?" Getting out the votes. Right now, there's an early election in Connecticut right this minute. I can't tell you when the deadline is to register to vote. If you haven't registered, I'm sure you guys have, but if you know people who haven't registered, the vote is critical. And when you're looking at the candidates, you have to decide. And I'm a Democrat. My father's a Republican. He voted for Goldwater, whatever. He would roll over in his grave if he knew what was going on now. He was very proud to be in the Navy and all that. The grave is in the Navy, he used to say. But no matter what level of government you're at, you got to remember that the Republicans are not speaking out. They're not. There's a couple here and there. The $230 million that Trump wants to get announced yesterday because he was being investigated. He's investigating people for minor things. He had 350 some odd boxes of secret documents, okay? So, and where's the Republican Party speaking out? I don't hear them speaking out. So from my perspective, I'm not telling you what to do or anyone on the audience how to vote, but my view is that the Republicans are not sticking by our democracy and our Constitution, so it's going to influence how I vote, even if it's a position of tax collector, even if it's and if whatever position it is, my view is I'm going to be voting all Democrat because I don't like the way Republicans aren't speaking out. You said before people are afraid. What are you afraid of?
Right.
What are you afraid of? Because if it gets worse,
It's worse.
it gets worse, it gets worse. Anybody want to comment on what I just said? You could disagree, agree, whatever you want to say about what I just, Clementina?
You know, I think at this point it's hard because I've seen, Democrats who are not really doing much either. So I feel like at this point, we really need to be conscious about who gets our vote because they need to be accountable. As said before, Obama was one of the deportators in chief. He deported so many people. He also was the one who came up with, and I don't know if you know.
But time I stop for a minute. Obama has not been president since 2016, right? So therefore, I'm not criticizing you talking about it, but today is now 2025. So when we're talking about voting for today, and I happen to think Obama was a great president, and that's another topic of conversation, but I get upset when I hear people saying, well, both sides are bad. Nobody's perfect. I'm a lawyer. There's not a perfect lawyer in the world. I don't know what's your profession. What do you do? Whatever your profession is, all of you, there's not people who are perfect in any profession. But we have to be smart enough, and that's one of the things on my list, which is getting the information out. Chris Murphy is doing a phenomenal job, in my opinion. In fact, you saw him in my roll-in, okay? So when I hear people saying, I'm not criticizing you, but it's my own viewpoint, saying, oh, the Democrats aren't great, Biden pardoned his son, okay? Well, that was right or wrong, okay, but he didn't pardon 1,500 people who crashed in the Capitol building. So I get annoyed, I'm not annoyed at you, but when I hear about, well, the Democrats aren't much better, right now, if you're voting right on the election, anybody, are you safer voting for a Democrat or an independent who's running or a Republican? What are you safer doing? That's what we have to all decide for ourselves. You say what you mentioned about how Native American Indians and years ago were treated badly. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know all the facts.
You don't know any of the facts.
Okay.
You don't know any. You're saying maybe.
I mean, we massacred them.
Okay, no, I'm saying to you, I'm saying to you that we know what happened there.
And it's ongoing too.
Okay,
It's
well, the ongoing part is critical. But what I'm saying to you is we have to vote for people who can win an office and take the people who are the best for us. If you say, well, I want to vote for somebody who's going to get 800 votes and the winner's going to get 8,000 votes, it's not helping. We got to get into office people we like. But you can tell me if I'm wrong. So tell me why you want to
finish. Go ahead. You guys
no,
finish that.
I
Come
really
back.
think that we also need to, make sure that our candidates are accountable. because by allowing them to just to get our vote just because they're the better choice without really take responsibility, then we just continue the cycle, because this is a cycle. It's been happening over and over and over. And of course, I mean, you have to get the best of the both evils,
Sometimes
right?
the best of a bad lot sometimes.
Exactly. But at the same time, and I'm talking on, as an immigrant, someone who's seen and witnessed and lived through this situation, right? We really need to make sure that, they're accountable, because otherwise we just continue
I agree with you 100%.
the cycle.
Go ahead.
You stole the words out of my mouth. It's we have to hold folks accountable once they get into office, right? So like when we put them in there, boom, we need this, we told you this, we put you in there, right? That's one. The other part, this staying back and not doing anything,
Oh, terrible.
is what got us into this position we're in right now. Okay? So if we look at who voted, who didn't vote, and I get it, man. People were treated like crap during this last election. I could say myself, in a couple of instances, were treated like crap.
In what way do you mean? How do you mean that?
Let's just say I was a retired executive, and I volunteered to work for the campaign, and for no money, what have you. And I got stood up 2 or 3 times on interviews, right? So I'm saying to myself, I could have helped. I helped in other ways. I went to Western Pennsylvania for 5 weeks and knocked doors for it. But in the back of my mind, and some of the ways as you would come in and you report, you all know when you're knocking doors and everything, you can say, hey, this is what happened. This is what I'm hearing out here, folks. It ain't good, right? And you get this blank look of, hey, I'll just take your paperwork and we'll go. So that's what I'm
one of
talking
the problems we have in our country that I'm not sure how we're going to overcome it, because some of the problems are indigenous to our society that it's going to take years. Like, we'll never change electoral college. That's never going to well, I shouldn't say never. Not in my lifetime, okay? But what we have, it's critical, is the gerrymandering problem that's going on right now. And that is that, can't give you the exact numbers, but I'll give you roughly. I'm going to say out of the 435 congressional seats that we have in Congress now, let's suppose 385 of those, I could be right or wrong, it's either a Democratic seat or a Republican seat. No matter how you slice the pie, it's going to be very, very, very hard. So you really have like 40 or 50 seats, in my opinion, that are up for grabs. And you mentioned the word accountability. If you can't be knocked out of office by a vote, then you don't have the accountability there. Why do you think that people who are, the Trump thing right now about the $230 million he wants, there are people who are afraid. And until we correct, and it's going to get worse on gerrymandering, I'm concerned, because the Supreme Court's doing a lousy job. But we have to find a way within the system we have now, we have to find a way to get people in office, and hopefully, talking about Congress, hopefully getting people who are in these so-called red states that might become purple states, which might be more amenable to having changes. But if you only have 40, 50 seats in the Congress, if I'm writing the numbers, I could be wrong, but I'm picking a rough number, then there's no accountability. Any comments about that?
Yeah, I think we're straying from the objective of the group. We're really not political in that sense. We're not an electoral group. We don't canvass for politicians or anything like that. So, I think this is a bigger picture that might be straying.
So let's get back. Let's get back to your, because I happen to disagree with you because you have to vote. But let's talk about what
But that's not what we do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think it's important to do that, to get people out to vote?
I'll answer here. I'm not going to discourage anybody from voting. I think the utility of it is vastly overblown. And again, I think it satisfies an itch in the constituency, in the electorate, such that they don't do anything in the interim years, right? I mean, if you vote every 2 or 4 years, if you go door knocking or canvassing, it satisfies an itch and makes you feel like you've done something for democracy, your community, etc. Whereas being a political entity, a human being that lives in the polis, political work happens every day. the stuff that we do in Duffy, it's a full-time job for a lot of people on top of their full-time job already. That's political work.
Yeah.
Going canvassing, not for a political candidate, but going canvassing to let people know what their rights are. If ICE shows up at their door, their homes, at their car, at their place of work, that's political work. That's community building. So my concern, again, not casting aspersions on No King's Rally, the political system, although I might have them, it has to go beyond that. It has to go beyond GOTV.
Well, we have 5 minutes left in the show. I'm going to give each of you 1 minute. I'm going to start with Scott, as to taking the group's initiatives. And I respect what you guys are doing. Though you don't have an actual mission statement per se, I think you're saying what you, in the discussion today, what you want to accomplish. So each of you gets 1 minute to start talking about what it is that you intend with your group to do to try to help the immigrants. I think the conversation so far has been very helpful and useful to those watching, but we'll start with you, Scott. What would you, in your 1 minute, talk about in terms of what you and that group, Greater Danbury Unites for Immigrants, can do to help immigrants?
Yeah, I think, and I'm saying me personally within the group is just what I'm doing, but I want to back up and just say, hey, this group is young, right? We are a new group. We're over 100 members and doing a lot of great things out there. So you have to keep that in mind. From my perspective, what I just want to make sure that we are doing an outstanding job documenting ICE throughout this greater Danbury area so that folks outside of Danbury and our group know what's going on. Because a lot of people don't, and it wasn't until Juan probably talked a lot last week to everyone and explained it that some people 5 miles away had no clue, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is if they screw up in this area, you're going to see it. Because you know what? We're going to find them, and we will absolutely show it.
Who's they? Who's they?
They being ICE, right? And you've seen that at the courthouse when you see 60 people and you see a woman getting pushed for doing nothing, okay? So that's kind of the second thing. The other thing is we're going to work on their minds a little bit. Like you touched on it a little bit before of, hey, there's different agencies that are working on this project. You have the FBI. Those FBI folks, frankly, don't want to be there. I could tell, right? And when you start saying to them, son, is this why you went to Quantico? They've got to start thinking like, come on. You start looking at other folks, different races, etc. What are you doing here? You better watch your back. I want to get in their heads. So those are the three things for me. And we want to catch that picture of them doing some of this stuff. We can't catch every single one and spread it.
Education is very important. For example, Clementina talked about what happened in 2006. I had no clue.
Exactly.
I had no clue about that. And I'm watching for things. So imagine the person who isn't even interested in that issue. Yeah. Clementina?
Yeah, I definitely want to make sure that families are protected. The separation of children, the separation of the breadwinner of the house. We've seen how these families are being ripped apart. Fathers, parents, so concerned about their 18-year-old child who was taken just because he cranked up music in his apartment. He had to go to court, and on his way out, he was doing the right thing. He had to go to court. He had to, appear, just because he wanted to hear music loud on a summer day at 7:30 p.m., right? Nothing wrong with that. But when he came out of the court, he was taken. And those parents didn't know where he was until days after. And it took this specific person, young man, to go back to the country of origin a couple of months. And he kept moving from place to place to place.
And how about being sent to a place that you never were? If you came here, I had someone on the show a few months ago who was born in Budapest, Hungary, and came here, and she has her citizenship, etc. But if they're going to send her back, she lived in Budapest for 1 year of her life, and sending people back to countries that are not their own are problematic.
So if you allow me, it's so important for us to document this, to support these families all the way through, even when they go back to their countries. We have this amazing group of people who is working on the post-detention program that we have. And we also work with attorneys who are helping. So this is one of the most important things that I would like to.
Unfortunately, my director just told me we have 30 seconds to wrap this thing up. You gave a good statement a few minutes ago, but I wanted to say that the work that you three are doing, and I had not met you except for seeing you that one day, Scott, in Richfield, the work you're doing and the efforts you're making are noteworthy. And getting the education out is really important. And the one thing I would say is if I could disagree with one thing that was said, I think that getting out the vote and voting for the persons who you think are best going to support the perspective, but also separating out those immigrants, in my opinion, is important, who are really, truly people who are criminals, and not because they drove 26 and 25 mile zone, but rather really serious violent criminals. If they have the due process, I mean, they have to be separated out, in my opinion. But I want to thank you, the member.
It's such. I don't mean to interrupt you. It's such a minuscule number.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
The rate of crime and violent crime committed in the native-born U.S. population is much higher than in the immigrant
Did you
population.
hear me say different than just now? Did you hear me say?
I know, but it's such a canard, in my opinion.
Well,
It's,
I would disagree. If I had more time, I'd disagree with you. It's not a canard, it's a distinction. But in any event, this has been Bob Potts. I want to thank you all for coming on the show. And the fact that we have a right to disagree and agree, God bless America.
Yeah.
Bob Pottsner, The Bobby O Show. Thank you very much. Scott, Seth, and Clementina.